What's up, people? World Boss P, how y'all doing? How y'all doing? I decided I'm gonna try to be more consistent, but I decided to make this YouTube channel because I'm always on YouTube. So I thought, why not do a reaction channel? Why not? Why not? Spend so much time on here, I might as well. This girl's, I don't know, my algorithm really like her. She's dating this guy Reggie. They locked in. They might have broke up recently. I don't know. But apparently they started dating as soon as they met. They haven't been separate. That's a vibe. People don't really do that no more. A lot's going on with Meg. Meg is in and out the headlines. Hot Girl Summer, I guess, is over or starting. I don't know. Shinsia, she looked kind of old without her makeup. I saw her without her makeup for the first time today. Trump says Iran war terminated. Was it? Do they know that? Because I heard they just bombed us. I don't know how. I thought they didn't have any weapons. I thought we decimated them. But let's see. What are we gonna do? Where we gonna start? Where we gonna start? So, if this video, another thing, if this video gets 2,000 likes, I'm gonna climb this coconut tree right there. I'm gonna climb this coconut tree right there. If this video gets 2,000 likes, I'm gonna climb this coconut tree. But let's see. Let's get to it.
Ass is really the pinnacle of life. Cousin!
Cuzzy, I had a dream about you, a wet one actually.
Brother, what are you talking about?
I want to try in real life.
We're cousins, that's weird.
Technically, we're only third cousins, so it doesn't matter.
What the f? I know the cousin skit's weird, but it's just a skit.
Cousin, want to play a game?
What game? It better not be weird.
House.
I'm not trying to play house with you, what?
Too late, you're the daddy, and I'm the broke baby mama with 5 kids.
Damn, that was very specific.
Action. Where my money at?
Damn, what a turn of events. Ass is really the pinnacle of life. Cousin!
Cuzzy!
Unless I hate the video or it was offensive, I always like it. Why not? Likes are free. By the way, like the video, like the channel, subscribe. Ooh.
So one thing that's funny about being like a completely single mom, and like when I say that, I mean like the dad has never even met his kid. I mean it's his kid, but let's just be clear. Unfortunately. But I just say I'm like a pro single mom because he dumped me while I was pregnant, like left completely, didn't hear from him, you know, no how's the baby, you know? So the thing about that, like when I tell people that, I feel like they're a little shocked because it is pretty rare. Like even most single moms, I'd say you could say the majority are like single, but then the dad, they co-parent at least to like an extent, you know, or they did, you know, at some point. I don't know. I just feel like it's very rare to, not very, unfortunately, but it is pretty rare, like my situation. And it's obviously not something that I ever thought would happen to me. Like I've literally heard stories about people that get pregnant on a one night stand and the dad is a great dad, you know? That wasn't the case with me. It wasn't a one night stand. It was my boyfriend, unfortunately. I don't know. And yeah, it was funny too because like I didn't personally like need kids or like want kids or like I wasn't like dreaming of becoming a mom ever, but he, in my case, like wanted 4 more kids, he would say. Because also he is a father to somebody else and seemingly was a good one. I don't really think so anymore. But yeah, so I just never thought that would be me because you never think it would be you. And I guess my point is, like, when I tell people that, they assume that how did I not know this would be me? Like, how did you not know? You're an idiot. He was gonna tell me that, when we were dating, that he would abandon me while pregnant, you know, like that happened. But no, actually, I was distraught when I found out I was pregnant, and people say, like, do not say that, but it's my truth, you know, it's fine. It's what happened. Like, I'll tell my son that someday. That's obviously not how it ended up playing out, right?
So this woman is a really pretty woman. I actually went through her profile and I looked at her pictures, and typical Miami girl. Apparently, now she has made this her whole personality. You know how women, for example, I've done review videos where people say, yeah, I went no contact with my mom or whatever. And every single video on her profile is that. A lot of her videos, the titles, I didn't actually look at the videos, but the titles now have become single mom, drop while pregnant, so on and so forth. And the question still remains, the question persists. He has other children in another relationship. You are having children out of wedlock. How did you not think that something like this could possibly happen?
So one thing that's funny about being like a complete
I don't know if I subscribed to him before and unsubscribed him for whatever reason. I don't remember. I'm just going to subscribe to him again. If I remember why I unsubscribed to him, maybe I'll unsubscribe later. But he got in, Corey Holcomb and him was about to fight. Corey Holcomb slapping women, but when he got the opportunity to do that to a man, he folded. I don't know. I don't know about that one. Getting a lot of military stuff, a lot of AI stuff. Oh, wow. They were saying it was illegal to try to talk to whales. Maybe the military already figured out how to do that and they don't want us to know. Let's see what they're talking about. Let's build up a queue. Right out, secret war. Let's build up a queue. Do it like this.
A breakthrough for scientists after they had a 20-minute conversation with a humpback whale.
Did it say I'm tired of fish? I'm tired of plankton. So this team, including a professor from UC Davis, is hoping for more interspecies dialogue following this groundbreaking exchange with a whale named Twain.
For 30 million years, something has been speaking in the dark beneath every ocean on Earth. Nobody was listening. Then an AI processed 9,000 recordings from the deep and found something that made an MIT researcher go completely still and whisper 4 words out loud. This isn't supposed to be possible. What the AI found was not random animal noise. It was a full phonetic alphabet with vowels structurally identical to human speech. A complete language. Scientists have now decoded the first message. But here is the shocking part. These whales have been trying desperately to reach us, warning us, talking about us. And what they have been saying is something the researchers who finally heard it were completely unprepared for. The day a whale talked back. Off the coast of Alaska in 2023, a small research boat sat quietly on the water. The scientists on board were about to attempt something that had never been done.
This is so interesting that I don't even want to pause this. But I just feel like this is too good to be true. I feel like this is clickbait. I feel like I'm going to get through this 35-minute video just for them to say the whale said, move out the way, or the whale said, give me fish. I don't know. Let's see.
Done before in the history of human science. They lowered an underwater speaker into the ocean and played a sound into the deep. The sound was a humpback whale contact call, which is the specific signal humpback whales use to announce their presence to each other. It is the closest thing in whale language to a spoken hello. The recording they used had been captured just the day before from a small group of whales in the area, a group that included a 38-year-old female named Twain. They may have been playing Twain's own voice back to her. Then they waited, and what happened next completely shocked them. Suddenly, Twain surfaced. She moved toward the boat and circled it slowly. Then she opened her mouth and sang back. Real humpback whale vocalizations, directed straight at the boat, in direct response to the call the scientists had just played, and she did not stop at one reply and swim away. Every time the scientist played the contact call through the speaker, Twain answered back with her own sounds. The scientist played, Twain replied. The scientist played again. Twain replied again. This went on for 20 full minutes. A wild whale, out in the open ocean, holding a back-and-forth vocal exchange with a group of humans on a boat. Lead scientist Dr. Brenda McCowan from UC Davis said afterward, "We believe this is the first communicative exchange between humans and humpback whales in the humpback language." But what truly shook the scientists was not just that she was making sounds back. It was the timing of those sounds. Between each call the scientists played, there was a natural pause, the specific gap a humpback whale leaves mid-conversation before the other whale is supposed to reply. Twain waited for that pause every single time and filled it with her response, exactly the way a person waits for the other speaker to finish before they answer. She was not randomly vocalizing. She knew when it was her turn to speak. This near impossible moment did not come from nowhere. A few years earlier, marine biologist David Gruber was sitting alone in his office at Harvard's Radcliffe Institute with headphones on. He was reviewing old sperm whale recordings he had collected while studying jellyfish in the Caribbean. The sounds coming through his headphones were rapid, mechanical clicks, firing one after another with specific gaps between them. He had heard them hundreds of times. Every single time, he had taken his headphones off and moved on. He assumed those sounds were nothing. Background noise from an animal he believed science had already figured out long ago. Then, MIT cryptographer Shafi Goldwasser walked past his open office door and stopped dead in her tracks. She stood there listening for a moment. Then she looked at Gruber and said, "That sounds like Morse code. Have you tried using machine learning to decode it?" Morse code is a communication system where specific combinations of short and long signals represent different letters and words. It was used for decades to send secret military messages across the world, and cracking it requires a trained expert who knows exactly what to look for. Goldwasser was that expert. She had spent her entire career breaking actual encrypted government communications, the kind that countries use to hide their most sensitive secrets from each other. When she heard those whale clicks, something in her professional instincts fired immediately. She was telling Gruber that what was coming through his headphones had the same hidden structure as a coded message. Gruber sat there for a moment because she was right. Nobody had. In all the decades of whale research, across every laboratory and every ocean study ever conducted, nobody had ever run those sounds through a decoder. The clicks had just been sitting there this whole time, completely ignored, waiting for someone who knew what a hidden code looked like to walk past an open door. And now, science was about to study these codes. But before any machine was even built, before any AI had processed a single recording, the ocean had already sent researchers a warning that should have made everyone stop and think very carefully about what they were actually dealing with. Researcher Oscar Palacios and his team were in the Galapagos Islands running an acoustic tracking study on a pod of 25 sperm whales. Acoustic tracking simply means they had underwater microphones in the water, recording everything the whales said and did. The study was going well. 2 weeks in, they had solid data and the whales were vocalizing normally. Then one day it all stopped, not gradually. Not one whale going quiet and then another. All 25 whales went completely silent at the exact same moment. Then they were gone. The researchers searched. Nothing. The whales had vanished without a trace. The researchers came to a conclusion that is genuinely difficult to process. They believed the pod had figured out that the underwater microphones were there. They believed the whales recognized they were being monitored, discussed it amongst themselves, and made a group decision to stop making any sound at all. 25 animals coordinating a collective silence in direct response to human surveillance. These creatures had become aware that humans were listening to them long before humans had any idea what they were actually saying. And here is something else that almost never gets mentioned. Sperm whale calves are not born knowing how to speak their language. Just like human babies who spend their first year making broken, garbled sounds before real words start forming, sperm whale calves also babble. They produce messy, incomplete attempts at coda clicks, practicing over and over, getting it wrong, trying again. They do all of this in complete darkness while their mothers are away on deep hunting dives. Among the very first things a calf learns is something researchers call the identity coda. This is the specific click pattern that tells every other whale in the ocean exactly which clan this calf belongs to. Think of it as a sound-based last name that gets stamped onto the calf in its earliest weeks of life and stays with it for the next 70 years. The very first lesson a sperm whale receives is not how to hunt. It is not how to find food or avoid danger. It is who it belongs to. From the first sounds it ever makes, this animal is already operating inside a language system built on identity, belonging, and social rules that were established long before it was born. Goldwasser's question in that hallway had started something that could not be stopped, but answering it was going to require something science had never come close to attempting before: a machine powerful enough and a data set large enough to read an entire ocean. The machine that read the ocean. Goldwasser's question led to a third person, an AI researcher named Michael Bronstein. He explained that the same deep learning technology powering tools like ChatGPT, which is AI trained to understand and produce human language, could theoretically be applied to animal communication. There was one condition: you needed enough data. That single requirement became the driving force behind the most ambitious marine biology project ever attempted. In 2020, the effort was officially named Project CETI, which stands for Cetacean Translation Initiative. Cetacean is the scientific word for the family of animals that includes whales and dolphins. The project brought together researchers from MIT, Harvard, UC Berkeley, and 15 other institutions. The goal was straightforward and staggering at the same time. Use artificial intelligence to decode what sperm whales are saying to each other. The team chose the Caribbean island of Dominica as their base. This specific stretch of ocean is one of the very few places on Earth where multi-generational sperm whale families return year after year without fail. These were not anonymous animals passing through. The families were known. The matriarchs had names. Their social hierarchies had been mapped across decades of careful observation from the surface. This was the closest thing to a whale neighborhood that science had ever found. What the team deployed there was unlike anything ever used in marine biology before. They installed hydrophone arrays, which are networks of underwater microphones, permanently along whale migration routes. They developed biologger tags that attached directly to the skin of whales using suction cups. Each tag carried 3 synchronized microphones, capable of separating individual voices even in a group conversation. The tags also recorded GPS location, depth, water temperature, and accelerometers that tracked every shift in the whale's body orientation to a fraction of a degree. The system was not designed just to hear the whales. It was engineered to record who was speaking, who they were speaking to, what they were physically doing at that exact moment, and what the entire acoustic environment around them looked like simultaneously. Every piece of context that could help give meaning to a sound was being captured at the same time as the sound itself. 9,000 recordings went into the AI. For decades, scientists thought they had sperm whale communication completely figured out. They believed sperm whales used roughly 21 distinct click patterns called codas, and that each one had a single fixed meaning. Think of it exactly like a traffic light. Red means stop, green means go, yellow means slow down. 3 signals, each one means one thing and one thing only. You cannot mix them. You cannot build on them. That was the assumption. That was what the textbook said. What the AI found tore all of that to pieces. It found 156 distinct codas. But that number alone was not even the most shocking part. What made the researchers go completely quiet was what was buried inside each one. Every single coda had 4 internal parts that could each be changed and mixed together to shift what it meant. The first is tempo, which is how fast or slow the clicks come out, like the difference between someone speaking quickly because they are panicking versus slowly because they are calm. The second is rhythm, which is the gap between each individual click, whether the clicks are bunched close together or spread apart. The third is ornamentation, which means extra clicks added into the middle of a pattern that change its meaning completely, the same way adding one word to a sentence can flip what the whole sentence is saying. The fourth is rubato, which means tiny changes in timing that add feeling to the sound, The way a person's voice goes tight and sharp when they are angry versus slow and soft when they are scared. These 4 parts were the working engine of an entire communication system. They could be mixed and layered to build meanings no single click could carry alone. Scientists have a term for a system that works this way. They call it duality of patterning, which simply means being able to build unlimited meaning from a small number of basic pieces. It was supposed to be something only humans could do. The AI just found it happening in an animal clicking away in the pitch black, a mile underwater. Then the AI found something nobody had prepared for. The same whale produced different communication styles, depending on who it was talking to. This is called audience design, and in human language it is the feature that allows you to speak differently to a child than to a judge, to soften a message for someone who is hurting, to adjust what you say based on what you know about the person listening. Audience design does not just require language and memory. It requires a model of another individual's mind. It requires understanding that the other being has a perspective separate from your own. The AI had found what appears to be theory of mind, the ability to understand that other beings think and feel independently, embedded inside click sequences. In an animal we had been treating as producing noise. The most chilling proof that sperm whale communication works across massive distances came from old handwritten journals belonging to American whalers in the 1800s. When whalers first arrived in new hunting grounds in the Pacific, things went well for them. They found whales. They threw their harpoons, which is a large metal spear attached to a long rope that whalers would drive into a whale's body to kill it and drag it back to the ship. In the early years, their hunters were landing those throws consistently and killing whales at a steady rate. Then something changed. Within just 2.5 years of their arrival, the number of successful kills dropped by 58%. The whales had not moved to a different ocean. They simply started getting away, consistently. What had happened was that the sperm whales that survived early attacks had passed the warning to the rest of the population through their communication system, not just to the whales nearby, to whales that had never seen a hunting ship in their entire lives. Animals living thousands of miles away were changing their behavior based on information they had received through clicks and codas from whales they may never have even met. Historian Bathsheba DeMuth at Brown University dug through the old whaling journals and found entry after entry where whalers described the shift with real unease, writing that the animals appeared to be talking to each other and that their behavior had clearly been learned from somewhere. The whalers could feel it happening, but had no way to explain it until now. Old whaling journals described something that deeply unsettled sailors and that none of them could ever explain. After a whale was harpooned and dying at the surface, the rest of the pod would go completely still. Then the clicking would start again, intense and unlike anything the whalers had heard before. The whalers wrote it off as distress noise. But now that we know these animals have 156 codas, a working grammar, and the ability to tailor what they say to specific individuals, that explanation does not hold anymore. What exactly were they transmitting in those moments? Were they speaking their grief out loud? Were they sending a warning across the ocean to every whale within range? Were they making a record of what had just happened, passing it to family members too far away to see it with their own eyes? Nobody knows. Those sounds were never decoded. They were just heard by frightened men on wooden ships who wrote them down and moved on. But the recordings being made right now in Dominica are a different story entirely. And what the AI found inside them was about to force every last assumption about human uniqueness completely off its foundation. One researcher at UC Berkeley was about to look inside those recordings at a level no one had tried before. What he found did not rip out the last thing humans had been standing on: the sound that should not exist. Instead of studying the patterns of coda sequences, which is what every previous researcher had done, linguist Gaspar Bacchus slowed the recordings way down and looked at the precise shape of each sound. What he saw made the foundational assumptions of his entire field shake. The whales were producing vowels, not sounds that were similar to vowels, structurally identical to them. Bacchus found two main types. The first is what researchers now call the A coda, which is acoustically identical to the A sound in the word father. The second is the I coda, which matches the E sound in the word see. He also found diphthongs, which are gliding double vowel combinations like the oi sound in boy, where one vowel slides smoothly into another. When the recordings were slowed down and the sound shapes were mapped, They looked like exact acoustic matches for human vowels. Backus said it plainly. In the past, researchers thought of whale communication as a kind of Morse code, but this paper shows their calls are more like very, very slow vowels. This suggests a complexity that approaches human language.
We are imbued with advanced abilities and powers that we've forgotten.
To understand why this is so deeply disturbing, you need to understand what vowels actually are. Producing them is not simple. It requires a specific set of body parts that evolved together over millions of years, specifically for speech. A descended larynx, which is the voice box, sitting lower in the throat than in other animals. Precise tongue and jaw musculature, controlled airflow through a resonance chamber, which is essentially a shaped hollow space in the throat that acts like a tuning instrument. In humans, all of this evolved over millions of years under specific evolutionary pressure towards spoken language. That combination of anatomy was considered uniquely human, something our specific lineage developed in our specific environment over our specific timeline. Sperm whales have none of that anatomy. Their vocal system evolved in the deep ocean, in pitch darkness, under thousands of pounds of water pressure, for a completely different purpose. It evolved for echolocation, which is the ability to send sound beams into the dark and use the echoes that bounce back to build a picture of the surrounding environment, the way a bat navigates at night. They did not evolve toward language. They evolved toward something that, when analyzed by the most advanced acoustic equipment available, looks functionally identical to it. This is called convergent evolution. It means two completely separate species, on completely different evolutionary paths, with no shared ancestor for hundreds of millions of years, independently arrived at the same complex solution. Dr. Daniela Roos from MIT described the findings to reporters by saying, "Our results show there is much more complexity here than previously believed. This is challenging the current state of the art of beliefs about the animal world." That might be the most understated sentence in the history of modern science. Here's the part that does not make it into the press releases. The anatomy that produces these vowel-like codas, which is the spermaceti organ sitting inside the whale's enormous head, the phonic lips at the front of its nose, the entire nasal complex, is the exact same system that produces its killing click. Sperm whales are the loudest animals on Earth. Their clicks reach 230 decibels underwater, which is the loudest biological sound ever recorded on this planet. A jet engine at close range registers 140 decibels. Human eardrums begin to rupture at 150. At 180 decibels, internal organs start to suffer damage. At the recorded peak output of a sperm whale, at close range, researchers have described the sound as physically capable of vibrating a human body apart from the inside. Ocean journalist James Nestor documented a diver whose arm went completely numb for nearly 4 hours after a whale buzzed him at moderate range. Divers in close proximity to vocalizing sperm whales have reported their skin heating up, a deep pressure sensation building inside their chest, and in some cases, temporary loss of feeling in their limbs. The organ that produces those gentle structured vowel-like codas is the exact same organ that can silently destroy a human body without the whale ever making physical contact. The language and the weapon live in the same place. Now, out of 156 codas, with vowels and grammar and audience design all confirmed, researchers have quietly identified one specific pattern they believe they may actually understand. It is called the 1 + 1 + 3. 2 isolated clicks, a brief pause, and then 3 faster clicks. It is the most commonly documented coda across Caribbean sperm whale families. It appears in the widest range of social situations before deep dives, after surfacing, during group gatherings, and at births. Researchers are cautiously proposing that it may mean something close to, "I am here." That is the first message, not a complex sentence, not a warning or a demand, just presence. Just one living thing telling another that it exists. That phrase has been transmitted between sperm whales millions of times across 30 million years, in a language humans could not read while we were hunting them. The first thing we may have understood a sperm whale to say is the same thing every conscious being eventually needs to say. It has been saying it every day, to every family member, in every ocean, since long before our species could stand upright. If one species on land and another deep in the ocean both discovered the same kind of sounds without ever meeting, then something important is going on. It means humans didn't invent this. So, if we both arrived at the same kind of communication, what else did we arrive at too? Things we always thought were only human. Memory, emotion, identity, maybe even grief. Sperm whales have brains far larger than ours. They've lived, socialized, and communicated for millions of years. For a long time, we believed language made us special. Now, it looks like it never did. And that changes everything. The AI had found the grammar, the vowels had been identified, the first word had been decoded. But a language is not just a structure sitting in a laboratory. A language is what living beings do with it every single day. And what these animals do with it in the dark, a mile below the surface, across families and generations and centuries, is where this story stops being science and becomes something far harder to sit with. What they say in the dark. If there is anyone who can tell us their story, it's Shane Jarrow. He is a marine biologist who has spent 13 years living alongside sperm whales in Dominica. And yet, even he admits something strange. He's seen a mother whale click back and forth with another female, then dive deep to hunt. Her baby stays behind with the other whale. He says it's almost impossible not to see it as, "Watch my child, I'll be back." At the surface, he's watched younger whales circle each other, clicking over one another, nudging, responding. He says it looks like cousins playing, talking. These aren't quick sounds. Some exchanges last up to an hour. They take turns. They interrupt each other. They respond to what was just said. There are louder voices, quieter ones. According to Shane, sometimes it feels like disagreement. Other times, like reassurance. Some talks happen between just two whales. Others involve the entire group. It's structured. It's social. It's not random noise. Now it gets even stranger. Different whale clans don't just sound different. They follow different rules, different ways of building their cliques. And they're not born with it. They learn it just like human language. You can tell exactly which group a whale belongs to just by how it speaks. And these groups, they are massive, tightly bonded, culturally connected. Some of the largest social groups on Earth outside humans. Now, here's the part that changes everything. They hunt in complete darkness, nearly 2 miles down. No light, no landmarks, nothing to see, only sound, and somehow they move together, coordinate dives, herd prey, stay in sync across huge distances, all in pitch black, which means one thing. This is real-time communication. Then there is the grief. Sperm whale mothers have been documented carrying the bodies of their dead calves through the water, refusing to let them go. In 2018, an orca named Tahlequah pushed her dead newborn calf along the Pacific coast for 17 days and more than 1,000 miles. The calf had lived for only 30 minutes. Every time the small body slid off the top of her head, she dove back down to retrieve it. Researchers watching from shore were genuinely afraid she would starve to death before she let go. During those 17 days, a tight group of female pod members gathered around Tahlequah and held close to her for over 2 hours, pressing in, staying still, surrounding her completely. Researcher Robin Baird said, "The animals go through a period where they're experiencing the same kinds of emotions you or I would when a loved one dies." At least 20 species of cetaceans worldwide have been documented doing this, carrying their dead, circling them, refusing to leave. Scientists call it epimeletic behavior, which means the refusal to accept the loss of a pod member. During every one of those vigils, the whales are vocalizing. The recordings exist. The clicks exchanged between a grieving mother and the females pressing close around her have been captured on hydrophones. Nobody can read them yet, but we now know with certainty they are not random noise. They are structured, combinatorial, built from vowel-like sounds, and a grammar the AI has fully mapped. Whatever a sperm whale says to its family in those moments is a real thing being said in a real language. And we do not know what it is. A sperm whale can live 70 years. The matriarch of a family alive today may have been born before underwater sonar even existed. She has spent her entire life transmitting knowledge to her daughters and granddaughters, the best hunting grounds, the safest migration routes, the dangers to avoid, the places that have kept the family alive for a century. When a sperm whale family dies out, it takes with it generations of accumulated knowledge about the ocean that no other family carries. Shane Jarrow said, Their stories are deeper than ours. These animals have been here longer than humans have been walking upright. Whatever they know about this ocean has been building for longer than human civilization has existed, and it travels through a language we are only now learning to read. But there is one more dimension to this story that has not yet been said plainly. These animals have been watching us for a very long time, and they have not been quiet about what they have seen. So, what they have been saying about us? What they've been saying about us. On November 20th, 1820, the American whale ship Essex was moving through the Pacific Ocean, roughly 1,500 nautical miles west of the Galapagos Islands. The crew was doing what they always did out there, hunting sperm whales for their oil. It was a routine day until First Mate Owen Chase spotted something in the water that made him go cold. An unusually large bull sperm whale was sitting completely still on the surface with its head pointed directly at the ship. Not swimming, not diving, just still, staring. Then it started moving toward the Essex. Slowly at first, then faster. Then it was coming at full speed, and it did not stop. It drove its enormous head straight into the side of the ship, with a force so violent the entire vessel lurched sideways and sent men sprawling across the deck. The crew scrambled to grab anything bolted down. Before they could recover, the whale surfaced again, turned around, and came back a second time. It hit the Essex again in the same spot, deliberately, purposefully, like it was making sure the job was finished. The front of the ship was destroyed. Water poured in fast. 20 men threw themselves into 3 small wooden open boats with almost no food, almost no fresh water, and nothing above their heads in the middle of the Pacific Ocean. What followed was 83 days that stripped them of everything. The thirst came first, so severe that men were hallucinating within days. Then the food ran out and the starvation set in slowly and horribly. Men started dying one by one, their bodies wasted down to bone. Then came the moment that haunted every survivor for the rest of their lives. With nothing left to eat and days still stretching ahead of them, the living made the decision to eat the dead. They carved up their crewmates to survive. Only 8 of the original 20 men made it back alive. This real event became the direct inspiration for Moby Dick. Most people know that part. What most people do not know is this. Researchers later noted that, right before the attack, the crew had been doing repair work on a damaged whaleboat, hammering wood and metal in rapid strikes against the hull. Those hammering sounds, striking in fast, repeated patterns against the boat, may have sounded to the bull like sperm whale click patterns coming from inside the vessel. If that theory is correct, the whale did not attack a ship out of rage or confusion. It attacked something it believed was making whale sounds. It heard what it thought was a signal, and it responded. The first time a sperm whale destroyed a human vessel and drove 20 men into the open ocean to die. It may have done so because it thought it was answering a call. The Essex was not the last. The whale ship Anne Alexander was rammed and sunk by a sperm whale in 1851. The whale ship Kathleen was rammed and sunk in 1902. Whalers' logbooks from the 18th and 19th centuries are full of accounts of sperm whales crushing small hunting boats with their heads and jaws after being harpooned, not fleeing, not diving, but turning back and fighting. These were not panicked animals thrashing randomly. These were coordinated responses from animals with the largest brains on Earth, long memories, and a communication system capable of transmitting survival intelligence across entire ocean populations. That communication network was already proven. Within 2.5 years of whalers arriving in new Pacific hunting grounds in the 1800s, the successful harpoon strike rate dropped 58%. Whales that had survived attacks transmitted the danger through their language to animals that had never seen a whaling ship. The warning traveled across thousands of miles of open ocean and changed the behavior of an entire population. These animals have been aware of human listening, human hunting, and human presence for centuries, and they have been talking about it the whole time. In 2020, something new began off the Iberian coast of Spain and Portugal. Orcas, which are killer whales and the largest members of the dolphin family, began targeting sailing vessels. They targeted rudders specifically, biting them, bending them, snapping them off. Without a rudder, a boat cannot steer. By 2024, there were at least 500 documented incidents and 3 confirmed capsized vessels. Marine biologists traced the behavior to a single origin point: a female orca believed to have suffered a traumatic encounter with a boat in 2020. She taught the technique to other orcas in her pod. They taught others. Within months, the behavior had spread through the wider population. Animals that had never experienced the original trauma, learning a targeted, specific anti-boat technique through social transmission, through language. 30 scientists signed an open letter urging the public not to project human motivations onto the orcas. But they also wrote clearly, the orca is an intelligent, socially complex species, and each population has its own culture, different vocalizations, prey preferences, hunting techniques, and different social structures. Science cannot yet explain why they are doing this. The explanation is in a language we still cannot fully read. While all of this has been unfolding above the surface, something catastrophic has been happening below it. Industrial shipping fills the world's oceans with relentless engine noise. Military sonar sends shockwaves through the deep. Seismic blasting from fossil fuel operations and deep sea mining detonates through every ocean basin continuously. For an animal that lives in a world where sound replaces sight entirely, where every family conversation, every hunt coordination, every grief vigil, every transmission of cultural knowledge across generations happens through an acoustic channel, this is not pollution in any ordinary sense. At high enough intensities, industrial underwater noise causes internal bleeding and permanent hearing loss in whales. Researchers have written it without softening it. A deaf whale is a dead whale. Chronic noise exposure disorients them, drives them away from feeding grounds, and floods their bodies with stress hormones that break them down over time. If sperm whales use language to hold their families together, to pass knowledge down through generations, to coordinate survival in the deep, then filling their acoustic world with industrial noise is the systematic destruction of a culture's ability to speak, every day, without pause. Legal scholars have already begun responding to the science directly. In 2024, Indigenous peoples from New Zealand and the Cook Islands signed a landmark treaty formally recognizing whales as legal persons with specific rights. Project CETI has partnered with NYU School of Law to explore what AI-assisted whale translation means for animal rights law worldwide. Gaspar Bacus said, "We are thinking deeply about what finding these human-like structures means for the legal rights of animals. What is language? Is there anything uniquely human about language, or is it just a continuum? What does that mean for the law?" Commercial whaling killed hundreds of thousands of sperm whales across the 20th century. Ship strikes kill dozens every year. If sperm whales have language, if they transmit cultural knowledge across generations, if they pass down the memory of being hunted across entire ocean populations, then every ship that struck a whale and kept moving did not just kill an animal, it silenced a speaker mid-sentence. Think about what all of this adds up to. These animals have been watching us for centuries. They watched their families get harpooned and kept talking. They watched 2/3 of their entire species get wiped out and kept talking. They watched the ocean fill with noise that tore their world apart and kept talking. If their language can carry warnings and memories and grief across thousands of miles and hundreds of years, then what they have been saying about us has been building for a very long time. And it has not been gentle. The first thing researchers decoded was, "I am here." But the message these animals have been sending about the species that hunted them to the edge of extinction is something we have not yet found the courage to fully translate. Because some part of us already suspects what it says, that we are the most dangerous thing in the ocean, and they have known it far longer than we have. The first message was not sent when we started listening. It was sent 30 million years ago. We just built the machine to finally hear it. And we are only now, right now, beginning to understand what it says.
Okay. That was a little bit anticlimactic. It wasn't, they said the first message was "I am here." I wasn't sure if that was literal, but I'm gonna like the video anyway, as should you. That was a long video, so I think we're gonna call it a wrap. I'm gonna try to post daily. What was that? A little mango. These little mangoes fall off. A lot of these little mangoes fall off the tree incomplete. I don't know what's making them fall off early. It's a little baby mango. All right, guys.